What's up, guys? My name's Kieran, if you're watching me for the first time. Been a little bit of a hiatus for me behind the camera. It's been about a couple months, but wanted to jump on because I just did my annual trip, let's say, to Michigan. So I have an aunt and cousin that live out there in Ann Arbor, and I used to go every year as a kid and didn't go for a while, but I've been going the past few years. So always go digging in Ann Arbor at Encore Records, and this year decided to venture out a bit and took a day. I was only there for a few days, but my cousin and I took a whole day and we went digging in Detroit. So we hit up 9 stores. Yeah, it was definitely surpassed any expectations that I could have had. Probably my best digging experience, and overall for a city, and just night and day from the experience that I had in Amsterdam and London recently, where it's just, there was some good records, but so expensive. And in Detroit, just like for the type of music that I like to collect and listen to, jazz, funk, soul, just not, I mean, there are some rare records, not rare records like going into Cosmos where it's just like jaw-dropping everywhere, but just the sheer amount of, you know, average in terms of like rarity, like just for them clearly common records, but in Montreal that records just I don't see, or it's like, you know, you might see one of those records and not 15 of them. Anyway, so great experience. On my way into Detroit, stopped in at People's Records, had about half an hour, didn't want to arrive too late, so grabbed a bunch of stuff there, was really pumped. Then went out for the day with my cousin. We hit up 9 different stores, including People's again, and their second location. They have 2 locations. And I also, on the way out, stopped at two of the stores again, being Dearborn Music and People's Records again, because it was just that good and I kept finding stuff. So definitely that was where I bought the most, was at People's Records. So clearly just got back a couple days ago, haven't had time to listen to these. I've listened to a few. I also had a stack waiting for me and my cousins, like every year, of records that I bought online that I shipped there. So I have a ridiculous amount of records. It's a little embarrassing. I can safely say that I'm done buying records for a little bit, just because it's gonna take me a long time to listen to all these. I still have some records that I bought before leaving that I haven't even listened to, so I'm in a good place with records right now. So I'll get into the actual records. First of all, before I get into showing, this is what we're listening to. This is J.R. Mitchell, live. Don't know anything about this guy, didn't know anything about this record. This is one I picked up at Encore in Ann Arbor. So yeah, other than I just took a gamble on it. I asked a couple people if they knew it. Chris Cole said it was good, that he used to have it. It's recorded at a university in Massachusetts. I don't see which one, but anyway, this was at Encore. I picked this up. Really nice LP. Okay, so I've kind of separated these by store. I'm gonna have to break it down into a few videos probably. And I'm gonna show you what I got at People's Records. So this is 3 visits within a week to the same store where I kept finding more stuff. I could have spent another week there. I didn't go through any of the boxes of 45s that they had. I could have spent, you know, a whole day just going through the gospel section and trying out records that because gospel, I don't know what I'm looking for. So I would have had to like needle drop a lot and listen. But yeah, so just unbelievable amount, and it was recommended to me by someone in the VC. So good looking. So picked up the Avant-Garde, John Coltrane, and Don Cherry. This was, I already have this record, but it was a 70s press, so this is a mono original that I picked up. A few of the records that I grabbed, this was the only one that I was, you know, it wasn't expensive, but I grabbed a few doubles that were, you know, a few bucks, where I just couldn't leave the record behind for that price, knowing that, you know, I don't ever see them around really, so they'll make good gifts to people. Grab this, Jack Bruce, Things We Like. Never heard this, but it's been recommended to me by several people, so I'm looking forward to hearing this, because I know based on the recommendation that it's going to be a great LP. This is with John McLaughlin and John Heisman and Dick Hextall Smith on Atco Records. I haven't even, you know, taken the price tag off of most of these yet. Picked up Jan Hammer Group Melodies. These are some of the, you know, higher end ones that I bought. Most of them, you know, these were $20. A lot of the records I bought were under 10 or even 5 or less at People's. But I did buy a few that were a little bit more expensive. This is in great shape. You know, I've seen this record once for more than this and nowhere near in this shape. Not all the records I bought for $1 are in perfect shape, but they actually all play. Another one, $20, in great shape. The Fantastic Jazz Harp of Dorothy Ashby. I didn't know this record at all. I know her, you know, the stuff before this and after this is kind of right in the middle, before her Cadet, her famous, you know, recordings. This is really, really nice. Actually, I listened to this while I was at my cousin's, and it's, you have Richard Davis on bass on here. Is the most notable other musician that I can see, but they had a copy of Afro Harping, but it was scratched. It sounded okay for the condition it was in, but the cover was totally like water damaged. They were asking a fair price for, you know, it, but I didn't want to, you know, I want a nicer copy of that record. I think they were asking $40 for, you know, a scratch up record that sounded okay with an awful cover. They also had Dorothy's Harp, is that what it's called? And that one was in really nice shape, but the cover was all, it was in the shrink, but it was kind of like bent and probably could have straightened it out, but you know, I had spent enough on all the other records, and don't really buy Shirley Scott records, but I grabbed one. The amount of Shirley Scott records and, you know, all the Oregon records, the ones that, you know, clearly aren't as collectible or sought after, was on Impulse, on Prestige, like original pressings from the early 60s, mid 60s. At Dearborn Music, there were so many of them. This is the only one I grabbed. Just this was on the first day before I knew that I was going to see about 100 of these. But anyway, original on Impulse for $4. That's the only one that I grabbed, but it was endless. Didn't have this. Eddie Harrison, Les McCann, Second Movement. Just to give you an example, like this is in the shrink, nice copy, $3. In Montreal, this is gonna be $20 when I've seen it in nice shape. So, you know. Grabbed Grant Green, Visions. Never heard this one. Really cool cover. This is like a early 70s. I like all his other stuff from this period, so I'm looking forward to checking this one out. Definitely going to be funky. You have Idris Muhammad on drums. Who else on here? You got some vibes. Chuck Rainey on bass. And I don't even know all the musicians on here, but looking forward to checking that one out. I was happy to find an original copy of this, of Brother Jack McDuff, Down Home Style. This is one of the first records I ever bought when I was started to buy records, I think it must have been 2008. I was in Toronto at Cops, and I was just, you know, starting to look through record stores, and they were playing this, a reissue of it, and I was like, damn, that's funky, so I grabbed it. I didn't know anything about, you know, records. Pressings or anything, just knew they liked the music. So 10 years later, finding an original press, never seen one, and it cost $8. On Blue Note, This was, I grabbed this actually, you know, they had so many records, but I don't use, not something I would have normally bought, but I think it was, yeah, so it's a David Newman on Atlantic, and I took a chance on it. This was when I stopped in for half an hour and just like quickly went through the jazz section. And I guess the reason I took a chance on it was the lineup of Joe Zawinul, Richard Davis, and then I also saw, I feel like I saw, yeah, Ron Carter, who's on every record ever. Oh yeah, and Bernard Purdie on drums, that's what I was looking for. And this is a really good record. This is actually, I listened to it when I got to my cousin's that night while we were eating, and totally unexpected. There's very different, it's not all the same vibe. It switches, but really, really nice record. Highly recommend this one for a cheap record, and it's a cool cover too. Didn't have this, Bill Withers, Adjustments. This one, I got this at the second location, which they said they were closing soon, is what they told me, but anyway, I've never even heard this record. But I'm a huge Bill Withers fan, so I'm looking forward to that. ZZ Hill, Let's Make a Deal. I don't know why I grabbed this. Well, I do know, back in the day I'd seen someone talk about this or show it, or maybe it was sampled. Anyway, $3. Secrets, Gil Scott-Heron, Brian Jackson. One of the ones I didn't have, one of the later ones, probably 78. I was hoping to find maybe some Flying Dutchman, Gil Scott-Heron, but I did not come across any. Hugh Masekela, don't have any records from him, or didn't, now I do. The Promise of a Future. So looking forward to checking that out. You know, same thing, when I've seen this, I think I've seen it before, but you know, it's probably was 15 bucks or something, but just don't hesitate to pull the trigger when records are $2. This is one of the slightly more expensive ones that I bought from People's Records. It was not $2, but it's a mint copy of this Little Beaver record, which I actually didn't know. I know I have another one of his, and I really enjoy it, and this one is very groovy. I listened to this in Michigan's from 1972. So yeah, if you like Little Beaver, this was his first release, and it's on also on the Cat label. I did grab one gospel record, James Cleveland with the Voices of Tabernacle, from Detroit, Michigan. Like I said, I didn't go through the gospel section. It would have taken me all day to kind of get through it and properly, but there was when I went with my cousin on the day, like our day of digging, this kind of is actually what one of the things that extended the day quite a bit was our stop into People's and the Grass Yacht location. There was a dude there at the listening station, and he had, you know, like stack of records like this that he had been listening to, and he's like, yeah, we started chatting with him because there was only one listening station and he was using it, and anyway, we just started talking, and turns out he's a, you know, he was a Detroit producer, so he knows the people, the Detroit scene, but he told me his name, but I could not understand what he said. Tried to look it up, but anyway, really, really nice guy. And he just kept giving it. He's like, he wasn't going to buy all the records, and he gave us a ton of records. He's like, check this out, check this out, check this out. Anyway, so this is one of the ones. He gave me a few, and I think this was only one of his stack that I ended up buying. My cousin ended up getting a few. Some really cool ones, actually. But yeah, so we ended up chatting and going back and forth with him for like 30-40 minutes, so that extended our stay at People's quite a bit. But yeah. Earth, Wind and Fire, didn't have this record. This is original pressing. You know, you just don't see this stuff here. Green label, Warner Brothers, $4, in good shape. So looking forward to checking that out. Going to be funky. Finally, a copy of this. This I grabbed on my way out of Detroit when I decided to just pop back in, see if they had anything new. And what I realized actually is that both times that I had gone, I had missed the new arrival section. They have kind of like in the soul section, they have a new arrivals, and then in the jazz section, they have a new arrivals. And those sections are all like cheap records, and then they have like the wall, then they have in front of the wall, they have, you know, a few by label, and then a few like soul records that are, you know, $10 and up. But on the other side, which I hadn't seen, was like a little newer 3 bins of new arrivals, and so I grabbed a whole bunch of stuff out of there. So I can only imagine that I probably missed some stuff the first 2 times. But this was on the wall. It was not on the wall the first 2 visits, and I had been, you know, waiting for a clean copy of this. I've seen a few around over the years, maybe 1 or 2. I think a Canadian pressing. I've seen Japanese pressings, but this is an original stereo pressing in, you know, near mint, VG Plus near mint condition. Covers in perfect shape. Maybe just a little bit of the laminate coming off on the back, but yeah, very happy to have that. Classic to add to my Coltrane collection. Grabbed another copy of that because my cover is in nasty shape. Richard Davis, Fancy Free. Have not heard this record, but lineup of, sounds like some dust on the needle. Lineup of Eddie Henderson, Joe Henderson, Stanley Cowell, Billy Cobham, and someone, oh, vocalist I've never heard of. And it's conducted by Bill Lee. So, looking forward to checking that out. Whole bunch of Lou Donaldson records for $1 or $2. Oh, this one was $4. Alligator Boogaloo, original pressing on Blue Note. I don't have, I think I maybe have one of that stretch, but most of them I don't have. Another Bill Withers, Still Bill, classic. One of my favorite artists, Bill Withers and Curtis Mayfield, you know, up there with me. Up there for me with Marvin Gaye in terms of, you know, my favorite 70s soul artists. Obviously Stevie Wonder, but definitely I would say my favorite that I listen to the most is Bill Withers and Curtis Mayfield. And Donnie. Can't forget Donnie. This is still all from People's Records, by the way, in the span of a week. And there's a lot that I left there. Donald Byrd, Stepping Into Tomorrow, with the Mizell Brothers from '75. Looking forward to listening to that. Odell Brown, Free Delivery. Don't know this, but I know I've seen it around a bunch. Fill Up Church is on here. From '69 on Cadet. Electric Mud, love this. This one is kind of like the Dorothy Ashby in the sense that it's quite a few surface scratches on it. But this one was cheap, so I grabbed it because it sounds pretty good for the condition. And I like this record, but I don't know that if I found like a mint copy that was expensive that I would want to spend the money on it. So kind of happy with this kind of copy where it plays well, and it's a loud enough record that a little bit of noise doesn't distract too much. Oh, this is another one from that producer guy that had a huge stack that he passed off. Eddie Henderson, Coming Through. Who's on here? Matume, Julian Priester. 77. Kind of later Eddie Henderson, but I'm sure there's going to be some funky stuff on here I'm going to enjoy. Another Lou Donaldson, Midnight Creeper. George Benson, Blue Mitchell, Lonnie Smith, Leo Morris, who is Idris Muhammad before he changed his name. Like, these are records that I like them, but I don't want to spend, when I see them, I have one that I did spend some money on in Montreal, but I was like, I don't want to spend what they're asking for them. Here it's like 30, 35, 40 bucks when they're in good shape, so I don't mind having a little bit of a beat up copy for $2. And I know those of you that live in the bigger cities, in New York, in LA, maybe Chicago, I don't know, I've never done, this is more common for you, and maybe Detroit, because of the economy and the situation, it's even a little bit cheaper than digging in LA and Detroit and New York. But for me, it was just like having a field day. Some later Roy Ayers. Oh, this is not from People's, actually, wrong pile. It's from Street Corner Music. What year is this from? 78. You know, I know this is not the best Roy Ayers record, I don't know it, but 78 Roy Ayers, worth the gamble for $1. I'm sure there's some good stuff on there. Back to People's Records stash. Same thing, this, like, you know, I'm sure this is gonna be pretty cheesy. Ronnie Laws, Pressure Sensitive. On Blue Note, it's probably mid-70s, maybe just after 75. Anyway, took a chance on it. Getting near the end of the stack here. Charles Earland, Soul Story. I'd never seen this one, actually. This I already had, The Lighthouse. This I knew nothing about, and I still don't, but I'm gonna give it a chance. Andre Crouch and the Disciples. This is Soulfully is the name of the album, on Light Records. I don't know what year that's from. I'm gonna say early 70s, but 72. Extra copy of Donny Hathaway. Not in the best shape, but hey, $2 in the shrink. Johnny Guitar Watson, Ain't That a Bitch. Charles Earland, Living Black. I didn't have this one. Some soul music, The Dells, Freedom Means. 70, I don't know what year this is, probably 70, doesn't say. But you got Charles Stepney on production and vocal arrangements. Looking forward to listening to this, actually. And another one that I had bought a reissue of years ago, cheap, you know, I think I bought it for $5. One of those cheap reissues. Leon Spencer, Where I'm Coming From. So yeah. Who's on this record? Selden Powell, Frank West. Cool. What are we at? 22 minutes, 23. Okay, gonna cut that off there. That's I guess part one of the Detroit digs. That's People's Records. Unbelievable for me. Highly recommend you guys go if you have a chance. Gonna rip off a few more videos here, but I'm gonna break them up. Peace.